Hello, welcome. Marlene here. For those of you that bake for Christmas, it's time to start thinking about it. Let's get organized so that we're not stressed out. Today we're making some advanced cupcake toppers that we can stash and we'll be ready to decorate our cupcakes Christmas morning with no stress. So on to the step-by-step tutorial. Let's look at the supplies. I'm using white satinized fondant. I do not color my fondant because I don't like having little clumps of leftover random colors, and so I prepare the little pieces and then I color them with my airbrush. If you do not have an airbrush, then you'll obviously have to knead in your color. So that my fondant doesn't stick when I roll it, I use cornstarch. Some people use powdered sugar. I personally don't care for the feel of the powdered sugar. It's a little granular like on your hands. Let's run through the tools. I've got here a mat to roll on because if it sticks, I can lift up the mat and kind of peel it off. If you're working right on your work surface and it's stuck, you're kind of dead in the water. You can't really peel it off. Then to roll, I have some guides so that when I roll, I don't go too thin. I have some small cookie cutters. These are the perfect size to make cupcake toppers. And then my little kind of secret tool to get my cupcake toppers to dry well and quickly is this kind of mesh spatter shield. It's for when you fry food so that the oil doesn't spray everywhere. So the air gets to my little fondant pieces underneath and they dry quickly. I don't have to flip them over, they just dry. And so let's get started. Fresh fondant can be quite sticky, and so I've got a piece of parchment paper even on top of my rolling mat that I had put, and now I'm just rolling this out onto my parchment paper. And the guides are helpful because you get a really nice and uniform thickness and you don't have to worry about going too thin. And once you've got your white fondant rolled, you can come in and cut as many cupcake toppers as you think you're going to need. You should always make a few extra just in case. I'm cutting some without my saran wrap, which gives me a sharp corner. And then I'm cutting some with some saran wrap like this, and this gives me a rounded edge. Now this gingerbread man, I want him to have more of a rounded edge. And so you make that decision based on the designs. I use the saran wrap on the stocking, but not on the snowflake. So you kind of visualize what look you're going for. I'm just cutting out the reindeer here. Now, this cutter could be prone to sticking, so you might want to dunk it in some cornstarch just in between cuts. Now I've got Santa that I want to do. And Santa, I'm going to cut him with the saran wrap. There. I want a rounded edge for him. There, let's move him over there. There's Santa. And now I'm cutting with a tiny oval. I'm actually cutting a hole in the face a little bit over where the hat is. Just like that. I'm making some little fondant bows. I'm working in white fondant. Here's my little mold. I've got a little ball of white fondant that I'm just lightly putting some cornstarch on and now pushing that into the mold, removing the excess. There we go. And then you can just pop that out. Now by working in white, I can then color them. You could certainly color your fondant before, but I find that a couple of things happen. Sometimes it can make your fondant soggy, and then you're left also with this clump of a color that maybe you miscalculated a little bit and you have extra or you need more. And this way, they're white, you color them after, you have exactly the right amount. If you know you're going to be making a lot of bows, it's a design you do a lot, you can make hundreds of them on a quiet night and just color them on the day that you actually need them. You just lightly dust them with your airbrush and you can have them in a second, whatever color you need. And that's how I work. I transferred my bows onto a piece of Scott towel and now I'm airbrushing them. I'm using Rolkem gold. Not all gold is created equal. If you want a really nice, shiny gold, look at reviews, check out the product. They're not all the same, very far from the case. So shop around. Rolkem is my preferred brand. I'll have the link in the description box. It is a powder, like a dust that you would paint with a paintbrush. I add vodka and pour it into my airbrush gun. And here I am airbrushing a few of the toppers. As you can see, in some cases you can use a stencil to create kind of like a pattern on the gift. You can focus a little bit more on the edging to create more of like an effect to make it look a little bit rounded and some shading. You decide how, involved you want to get. You can also add some pearl to make them all shiny. As we work on each topper, I'll talk about what I did for each one. And now I'm putting together my gifts. My bow, just a happy coincidence. It's like they were made for each other. They fit perfectly. And I'm just adding a little bit of royal icing. You don't need a lot for it to stick. And then a gentle press. And let these dry. And you'll be ready to just pop these on your cupcakes. Now I'm working on the stockings. This is probably the most common one I've seen of the ready-made toppers. Here, however, the ones I saw at the store, this was flat so that you could write with an edible marker, so very easy outline and flood, and then you'll get a flat surface. I want them to have like a fur, so I'm doing it this way. I have a star tip in. I'm adding a speck of royal icing right there, and then I'm sticking a little gingerbread man candy there, holding them so they don't move as I ice, and I'm just going back and forth, hiding the bottom of the gingerbread man. And then while this icing is wet, I'm securing some holly leaves there. And we have an extra special cupcake topper. These are small, so the detail is limited, but I suggest you do the face and marker. Just looks better. If it's up and raised, they look like bulgy-eyed weirdos. So a black marker, and I'm drawing happy faces. You can draw whatever expression you want. We're supposed to be happy at Christmas, so I'm doing smiles. Now I'm just doing a squiggly line across like that on either side, on the little hands or arms, like that, and then a button, and then here, kind of a tear shape to create like a tie, and then a little bit of a dot of icing. And just touch the icing with your needle to get some icing on it to make it sticky, and then you can pick up your little elements should you want to embellish with some sprinkles your little toppers. The icing is not sticking. And there. Entirely up to you if you want to add some embellishment, but I just like the look of like it makes it look like a real gingerbread man. Here are my little snowflake toppers. I airbrushed in teal and then I pearl spray them. And now I'm just coming in with some white royal icing and adding a snowflake in royal icing. So a dot and pulling right across to the other side. I've got a little dab of icing here on my counter, which I'm going to dunk my needle in to make it sticky so that I can pick up my little sprinkles and place them on the snowflake. This is meticulous work, and I do not recommend that you do this, right before you need to decorate your cupcakes. Do this well in advance so that it's just like an activity and not a pain and a burden on you. Now, you don't have to add the little sprinkles. You can make them any way you like. I'm making them extra fancy for you guys. And then I'm just doing a V. A dot and pull, dot and pull. And then once these are dry, you'll be able to place these on a cupcake. And then I'm just doing a little dot in between each line here, but I'm not adding anything. And there we have the little cupcake topper. I've got my Santas here. I'm ready to go. Here are my Santas, and as you can see, I have some overspray a little bit, but I'm not worried about it. When you buy these, they're hardly perfect. You can be more careful than I was, but once the face is filled, you'll see it's not going to be a big deal. Now I'm just filling, I'm working on parchment paper so that they come off easily, and I'm just filling in this whole kind of cavity here, which is the face, with a light pink there. And I'm letting it bulge a bit out of the topper, and then I'm going to drop in 2 black pearls in there for the eyes. Just like that. Here there's some broken ones, and we're going to see what we can do about rectifying that, see if we can glue them back, since this is royal icing, and we'll see if we can kind of save it, salvage them. Just going to pump this up a little bit more. And there, drop in our eyes. The eyes are on the big side, but I want to use my pearls. I don't want to make black icing. Santa's hat now. I've got the face dry a little bit, and I'm just coming in with some pretty thick icing so that it holds its lines, and I'm doing a circular motion across the hat here to create the fur on the hat, like so, and then a little swirl right here, and you can add whatever you want as an accent, or nothing if you want on the hat, but I'm adding a little star. And you can just quickly run through these, add the star while the icing is wet, or it won't stick, it'll just crush it. I switched my piping tip for a star to do the little mustache. And so right under the eye, I'm going to pull try to get it to lay down so that it doesn't break later. If it's in the air, it could crack. There, and now just turn to the other side and finalize the other side of the mustache. Try to get them to look about the same on both sides. And Santa is complete. Now I'm working on the reindeer, and I'm just using a round cookie cutter to kind of help me create the guideline for the nose that will, the snout that will stick out a little bit. Well, actually, it's not really going to stick out. It's just going to be a different color. So I'm just creating this guideline for myself so that I know where to pipe. And now for the little nose area, I've got a light brown icing, and I'm outlining and flooding this area right here. Build it up. While the icing is wet, you're going to need to drop in the candy of your choice, either black or red. approximately 8 millimeters, and just press it into the royal icing so that it adheres well, that it sticks, and there. And now for the ears on the reindeer. As you can see here, I'm just creating some little points. So let me show you what I'm doing. I'm using the pink that I used on the Santa's face, and I'm just creating like a tear shape right at the head, and then pulling. And then with a darker brown than the nose area on the deer, I'm just coming in on either side, creating kind of like a triangle or a small candy corn shape. And now just make sure that the pink is connected to the outer area. You can tweak it if you need to with your needle. And then once this is dry a little bit, we'll come in and finalize the face. And now I'm just filling in the rest here, and the same as the outline on the ears. There. And you're going to need to use your needle here to connect, to get a good fit along the snout, like that. And then while this is wet, very important to drop your eyes in the wet icing and press them in. Rudolph is just about done. I'm just adding some little face detail here, some little eyebrows, and a quick smile, just like that. And we're good. And I'm just going to add a little bit of blush to just make the character a little cuter. You just touch the cheeks here. There. And don't go too crazy. This is Rudolph is supposed to be a boy, so we're just going to lightly add the blush. As an added little thing, if you want, you can add a little like hair coming down in between the horns, just as a little added detail, but it's entirely up to you if you want to do that. So it's just a dot, and then you pull down kind of to create that little like strand of fur coming down. Holiday baking really can be so stressful, but if you're organized, it really alleviates all that. Now I made my little toppers well in advance, and they were in a container, so no problem. I picked up my sprinkles, my holiday sprinkles that jazz up any kind of design and make it look more Christmassy. I baked my cupcakes well in advance as well and froze them, so now I can just pull them out of the freezer. And I whipped up a batch of chocolate buttercream to go with my chocolate cupcakes, and I'm starting with just a little dollop of icing in the center, and that'll kind of give me a bit of a shape to build my swirl on. And then I can just go, I had an air pocket, you just keep moving. There. So it's just constant pressure. If you don't stop during your swirl, you'll get a nicer swirl. So just commit and follow through all the way to the end. If you stop mid-swirl, that's where it gets messed up. So make sure you have enough buttercream for that cupcake, and just be prepared to squeeze that whole time, a constant pressure going all the way around, building up, and there you pull away. Release the pressure when you get to the end. We're working our way around the cupcake, getting smaller and smaller. And when you have an air pocket like that, just keep on moving. Don't worry about it. Once the topper's on, it won't even be visible. And worst case, if you do mess up, you can just take off the swirl and start again. Now that I've got my little swirls on, I'm just going to add a little bit of Christmas sprinkles on here. I find that, especially when you're using something like chocolate, it just makes it look a little bit more Christmassy. So make sure you add them while your buttercream is fresh, because once it's crusted, they won't stick on as well. And also with regards to your toppers, make sure that your buttercream is fresh, because this way they kind of squish in and sit nicely. If you put them on once your buttercream has crusted, you're going to end up with like cracked and weird buttercream. So just a gentle press, and you can see our little holiday cupcakes come to life. And also, any kind of air pocket is hidden by the decorations. And aren't these the most adorable Christmas cupcakes? And here are the little toppers once again. I just want to mention, very important, not all fondant reacts the same when decorated with royal icing and then once placed on the cupcake. I've had the best success with the satin ice. It dries and then it doesn't rehydrate once placed on the buttercream. I've had some toppers made with different brands that just kind of like completely melt and fall into the buttercream. So please consider that when you decide what fondant brand you use. Now, once the royal icing is completely dry, you can just wrap these up and put them away until Christmas. You could also sell these alongside your cookies. Most of the cutter shapes I use today are also found in the larger size, so you can make these little holiday kits if you wanted. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads, and I'll see you next time.